Yo, welcome back to the Free Will Photos live stream. Today we are going to be taking a look at some day to night photography. Really edits, I guess, because it was daytime photos and we're going to turn those into nighttime edits. Now, you've seen those in the intro video. Hopefully you guys like that. Shout it out in the comment section below if you found that entertaining. Maybe I'll start doing that every week. I'm just looking for, new ways of engaging with all of you awesome subscribers. Now, before we get into the edit, I do want to go over a few housekeeping notes. So if you give me a second, I'm going to move us over to my screen here. As soon as my computer decides to cooperate with me. There we go. All right, now let's go over to the screen. Okay. So first and foremost, inside of the description box below, there's going to be a few links to a few different things. One of those links is going to take you to a set of presets that I made specifically for this day to night photography edit inside of ON1 Photo Raw. These are 100% free. It goes straight over to a share folder on Google Drive. You can download them. And moving forward, save this link because as I put packs together, I'm just going to start dropping them inside of this box and you'll be able to get those 100% for free just from using that link. And I'll also send out emails to those of you who are on the email list. So if you're not already, there is a link for that also in the description box. 100% free. You join the email list and I only send out pertinent emails. I don't try to sell you on anything or spam you for anything. I literally just send out information so we can continue on this photo editing journey. The next thing here is the Free Will Photos weekly submissions. Now, this is where the photo challenges come from. Where you will be able to drop your edited versions of an image on the photo challenges that we do every single week. This week is a day to night photo. Now, I do have here, and this link is also in the description box. This will take you to the images that I pulled from Unsplash. These are royalty-free images. They're free. You can download them. So you have the exact same source files as I do for these edits, and you can kind of mess around with them. Even if you wanted to follow along on today's tutorial, you can do the same thing just by coming to this website, downloading the images, and then using those. But with that being said, you'll be able to come over here, and once you've edited your images and you just want to get those into the weekly submission, you'll upload them it'll make sense where you hit add photo right inside of the pool. You just add photos and then the group will be able to see those. And then there's also going to be discussions. As you can see, I have two discussions here. One of them is just welcoming everyone to the group. And the other one is a place that if you have a portfolio that you want to share with the group. Now, mind you, this is a public group. And there are some rules to being a part of this group. So please make sure that you read the rules and that you adhere to those. One of the big ones, obviously, is the original photographer gets to keep the rights to their photo. Now, if it's coming from Unsplash, as long as it's from a royalty free, then that's good to go. Now, mind you, I'm going to be posting every week the images that I use from Unsplash. So if you want to use a image from there, you're already good to go. You can post those into the group. I just don't want any copyright infringements or intellectual theft or anything crazy like that. All right. You don't need to see that. All right. Now, the last one and the last link here is, again, I'm on Unsplash and I wanted to talk to you guys about what it looks like when we're actually trying to edit a day photo to a night photo. As you can see here, I went to Unsplash and I just typed in nighttime. And it's very important that we understand the colors of what goes into a night photo. And I didn't make any slides this week, so that way I didn't run into the same issue that I did last week with the slides. So instead, what I'm going to do is just kind of talk you through the mindset and the thought process of these types of images. The very first thing that we see right away in a nighttime photo is that they're mostly blue, right? We look at the photo here from Jackson Hendry. It's a blue sky, and then, you know, some really nice blue dark undertones, twilight blue, magentas, oranges, you know, really, really nice reds in there. And as you come down, blue is just a common theme. So in a lot of the images that you already seen the before and afters of, you can see that blue was very, very prevalent. Now, you don't have to go with blue. In fact, you could even go with a purple, and we're going to explore that a little bit today. But I just wanted to kind of give you the idea. What we're doing is really just infusing a blue or a purple into an image, so that way it can look like, give the aesthetic of being a nighttime image. Now, what are some use cases of turning an image into a nighttime image? Well, if you are photographing something that's dangerous and the best time to go there is during the day, but you want to make it look like it was captured at night. And I want to caveat that I don't think that you're going to get the best results by making a daytime photo look like it was captured at night. If you're really going for the nighttime aesthetic, there's something that just can't be faked about nighttime photos. And that's why, you know, I highly recommend that if you're going to do this, that you do it at night. But if you can't get to a place at night, then yeah, do it the way that I'm going to show you today, or generate your own style. And that's what I hope to see inside of the photo challenge. All right. But there's definitely some times when it's better to go to a location during the day as opposed to going to that location during the night, just for safety reasons. And I want to make sure that, you know, if you're going to go out doing night photography, that you're in a safe location. Just a consideration for you. All right. So that's enough talking. Let's get into some photo editing. I'm going to go ahead and move us back to ON1 Photo Raw. So here we are inside of ON1 Photo Raw, and you can see the before and afters of each of these images. I had a really, really hard time with this monochrome image, or this black and white image. So I did not even include that, just because, I mean, it essentially just turned dark, right? And it still looks like a daytime photo. It just looks like an underexposed daytime photo. So if you have any ideas on creating nighttime monochrome or black and white photos, please put them into the comment box. You know, I get to all those, and we'll work together on coming up with some really cool creative ideas. Now, let's go ahead and open up this first one. And you can see I added in a few extras and things like that, but some of these resources are actually part of ON1. And what I'm going to do is just open up the edited version. I think that's the best way of going through this today, just to show you, you know, kind of what I did. Obviously, here is the before. This is with the preview off. It's a really, really nice image. You can see that there's some shadow detail down here in the bottom third of the image, or half, I guess, close to half. And then there's really no detail in the sky. So this one was actually fairly simple to edit. Now, as you can see, I did not do any work on the develop module. That's just my personal preference when it comes to, one, building presets, but two, really building an effect. I try not to alter the develop module. One of the other things that I would note is all of these images are JPEG. They're not RAW. I think you're going to get a better result with a RAW image, but these are JPEG. I got them from Unsplash. So just keep that in mind. Now, let's go ahead and turn back on our preview so that way we can see all of the changes. And I'm going to show you the buildup. Now, here we are again, and I think there's some local adjustments on here. So let me turn those off because those will definitely affect the image. All right. And as you can see, I've done a lot of work to these images. So I'm going to go through these fairly quick just to make sure that I'm getting everything taken care of. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at this tone enhancer and see what it is doing. Well, it's very simply darkening the photo. Obviously, we want to get this nighttime aesthetic. Well, we want to make sure that we bring down the tones in the images or in the image. Now, one of the things that you can play around with is this compression. And what it's really doing here is it's bringing back some of the detail inside of these shadow areas. Now, don't worry about the compression. You're going to do a lot of back and forth whenever you're creating this particular effect. All right. I'm going to just go ahead and leave it off for now. And I'll show you why, because obviously we can come back and edit that later. But the tone curve, or I'm sorry, the tone enhancer doesn't really have too much going on. It's just the basic information, stuff that you would do to darken an image, right? I brought the blacks down, brought the shadows down, and I brought the exposure down by 1.5, right? So then the next thing that we have here is a color adjustment. Now, this one, I don't think it worked out the way that I expected it to. But I know that somewhere I muted the yellows. So let's take a look and see what happens in the yellows. So as you can see, this area, I just wanted that to get a little bit darker for some reason. And well, you know, that's 100% to taste. It's up to you what you want to do with the color adjustment. I think that's just something that I needed specific for this photo. Every photo is going to be a little bit different. The next thing is the curves adjustment. And all I really did here was I went into the blue channel and I boosted a little bit in the shadows. So that way I could get this blue light looking thing. And then I boosted the blue in the midtones. So that way I can really increase what was happening up here in the sky. And as you can see, now it's starting to really take that effect. It's starting to make it look like something that we want to see. So next thing that I'm going to do is hit texture. And as you can see with the texture layer, I added in a few things and you can kind of see the remnant of the moon, which I added later. So I'm going to leave the texture off for now because the texture, what I was really trying to do here was add in a little something to give like to pull this sky, like give the sky more interest, right? That was more of a creative decision. Does not have anything to do with the overall effect. Now we'll go into the local tab and we'll work our way up from the bottom. And so the first one, obviously I threw in a moon. This is just, again, one of those creative things. So I'm not going to show that just yet. But there is a blue gradient that I had to put onto the bottom. Now, this is less of a like midnight or super nighttime photo. This is more of like just after the sun is set and you're in this really, really blue hour. That's kind of where we are. Okay. And then I added in this adjustment, and all this did, if I remember correctly, it was just to add in a little bit of color and flare. And I use the soft light blend mode. This is just down here at the bottom to give a little bit of contrast, right? That's what soft light blend mode does. It contrasts with the pixels underneath it. So as I was painting with a white brush, and I can show you what this looks like. If I go back to normal, it's a terrible, terrible paint job. But because I was using soft light, it actually worked out pretty well. And you can't even see that big glob of whatever, of bad painting that happened right in this area, right? You can't really see that when you go to soft light. The reason for that is it's blending and making a really nice contrast. And when it's turned off, you don't really get the glow. But when it's turned on, it's like, yeah, there's a glow. Now, the glow doesn't make any sense because there's no visual aesthetic. So that's why I added in the moon. And now it looks like the moon is casting this light, even though you can tell that the light is coming from the bottom going upward, or it's like lit over here from the right hand side. This moon still makes it kind of pull together just because the bright side of the moon is here. So it just looks like it makes sense. Obviously, that is not how that would work in real life, but for a creative thought process, I think that it works out good, personally. And then I added in my texture, and this texture layer really brought down the overall exposure of the image. And again, I'm not showing so much the texture here. This is a stock texture inside of ON1. It's underneath the rain textures and then rain 18. And I just scaled it up pretty big because if it is scaled down, then there's too much going on and, you know, it just doesn't look real. Not that it looks real in the end here anyhow. This is more of a creative thing. But it definitely looks more pleasing, I think. Now, and then of course, I played around with the opacity, and the more you bring the opacity down, the brighter the image actually gets, as you can see. And then the more you bring the opacity up, the darker the image gets. And you could go with this however you want. I just felt that it didn't need to go too far, so I'll leave it about there. Now, I told you earlier that you can come back to the tone enhancer and you can play around with the compression. And for me personally, I think that I had just enough light after I went ahead and I painted in that I didn't need this compression slider. But if you feel like you need compression, you can just bring in a little bit of compression. And, you know, maybe that works for your image. You'll see that it works on some of the images that I have as examples. And for others, it does not work so well. But there you have it. That is the first edit from day to night. I'll go ahead and back this off. Here's the first or the before. And then here is the final edit, the after that I was able to make. Now, one cool thing before I get too far away, I'm going to go ahead and open up my preview window here for my presets. Every single one of these presets is going to yield a different result, and it yields that result because of the tones inside of the image. I wanted to give as much of a variety that worked in multiple situations, which is why there's so many different versions of this day to night to help you as a starting place. All right. It's not going to be your end state. You're not going to be able to one click and make a nighttime photo, but you will be able to start somewhere and then edit from there. All right. That's what this is all about. It does not come with any of these creative things because I think that that's something you'll need to do for yourself. All right. So if there's any questions during the live stream, go ahead and drop them into the comment section, and I will get to those in between each one of the photos. And while this saves, I'm going to get a quick drink of water. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and head over into this next image. And as I said before, every one of these photos is inside of the, or there's a link to go download them from the collection on Unsplash. So please feel free to do that if you want to follow along. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the overlay or the preview, so that way you can see the before. And as you can see, this is a beautiful, beautiful photo. It was a long exposure, and you can tell that because the water is just like velvety smooth and nice, and you know, it's awesome. All right. One of the things that I noticed about this image was the light, or because these rocks are carved and they're going kind of like in this V shape as it comes down. I don't know why I'm bobbing my head like this, but whatever. It was comforting for me. The light would naturally hit in these areas right here and in this area right here. You could see where the highlights are, and maybe this photo, because it was edited, I'm sure, the original photographer, I think it's Kouji, probably mispronounced the name, but this particular photo probably had some edits on it already, and maybe he dodged in these areas and burned some of these other areas. Either way, it was a very aesthetically pleasing photo, which is why I chose it, and I turned it into this. All right. And we're going to go ahead and unpack this again. Like I said, I don't use the develop module. I'm going to go over to effects, and I'm just going to turn off all of these effects here and go over to local and turn off the effects on local as well, because those really do. You're going to notice that I spent a lot of time in the local adjustments tab, because that's where I really enhance these images to get them where I want them to be. All right. For my own personal creative style and taste. So starting from the bottom, as you can see, this particular one does not have a curves adjustment layer on it. Instead, I started with split toning. And this gave me the base that I needed for the blue undertones that I was going for in this image. All right. And this is actually going to be the image that we test out the purple undertones. Now, I went really, really big on the highlights, and that was just because this photo was pretty well exposed, but it was also like there were a lot of highlights in this image that I really wanted to capture, like this nighttime aesthetic too. All right. And I chose this color blue. You can choose whatever color blue you want to. And I brought the amount up. This right here, I can't really tell you what your image is going to need, which is why I'm not going into the technicalities. What I was looking at was the highlights in the image, and I said, okay, what color do I want those to be, and how much do I want that to be there? So I could go 100%, and now all of my highlights in this image are going to be blue, and I get to blend it. So if I just want to see 100% blue highlights, then I can do that. I don't think that is going to work out for me. Which is why I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to bring this back down. I'll put it at 74, and I can't remember what this was at, but it'll still work out. And then I went to the shadows, and I needed a darker color for my shadows, because your shadows should always be darker than your highlights. That just makes sense, right? But I wanted it to also be blue, so I get this monochrome or harmonious. I don't know what the right color terminology is, but different shades of blue is essentially what I was going for. And I didn't bring this up too much. I could have brought it up a whole lot, but I just wanted that to kind of peek in and really working off the highlights. That was my creative decision for this particular image. I wanted to work off of the highlights. So then we move into the photo filter. And this is where a lot of the editing came to life. All right. And as you can see, I had to bring the opacity down, because at 100%, it was just overpowering. There wasn't much I could do. So I brought the opacity down to 30. And this really did make a difference, which is why I need to keep it where it was, because this gave me the glow that I was looking for in the image, but at the same time preserved a lot of that detail and in the shadow, and really made the color look good. I used a solid filter type with I think this is just the basic blue that comes with the filter. And then I just brought the amount up a little bit, because, you could go overboard, and you see what it's doing to the water. I didn't like that, because I thought the water needed to glow, which is why I left the water, or I'm sorry, left this at 20, so that way the water wasn't getting impacted. All right, that's where I found the sweet spot. Saturation I left alone, that's at 0. And then the polarizer, this is really to taste. It brings in a little bit of contrast, and then I left this on clean shadows. So not much. The big takeaway from here is working your amount, the type that you, the filter type that you use, and you got 4 types there: solid, graduated, bicolor, and center. Solid worked the best for me, and then I just brought the opacity down. Solid is the entire image, and bringing it down is just how much I laid over on the image. And then the last thing that I did inside of the effects was the tone enhancer. As you can see, this brought in a lot more contrast across the entire image, and it made it dark, and this gave me that nighttime look that I was going for. It's like the moon just shined right through, and it made this water trail. I don't think it's a waterfall. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know what this is. But this water trail is what I was going with. And I just I worked with the tones the way that I wanted to. Again, you can work with the compression, but I didn't like that it was bringing back so much of the shadow detail because I thought that this photo looked great with the contrast. So I left that alone. But I realized that I needed to do something to really like make this photo pop in my own personal taste. So I started with this adjustment here, which I'm going to actually show. It is a gradient, and I put it at a diagonal. As you can see, I'll just go ahead and show you the mask. So I put it at a diagonal, and there's absolutely none of the effect there, and it graduates all the way down until it becomes 100% beyond this dotted line or whatever. All right. And what is this effect doing? Well, it's adding in a ton of contrast all throughout the image. And I really just wanted the contrast to be in this area. I don't want much attention up here. I think that the key part is just like the way that this spines or moves around down here. And then there's this rock here and this rock here that kind of, really keep your focus right there. That was just, my own personal take. So that's what I left it at. All right. Now, the next thing that I did is, and then I also threw some haze in there. Again, this is just my personal creative thought. But then I said, you know what? I need the trees to glow. Now, this is very subtle, but the way that I seen it was the light is coming down into this water, and to get this glow or this, this twilight, this twinkle, whatever, I don't know, I wanted the trees to glow a little bit. So I went ahead and threw on a yellow color, and I actually left that blend mode at normal. So this effect is really just happening with the opacity slider here, set down to 66. So at 100%, so one of the things that ON1 doesn't really show well is I used a really, really low opacity and flow to paint in this particular painting or mask. These were not the settings. The settings that are shown on the screen, those are not the settings. So don't think that those are the settings. All right. But that's all I did. I used a mask. I painted in with a really low opacity with a yellow color. And then I didn't like that it was bringing yellow into the image because yellow will absolutely clash with blue. So I brought it down to 66, as you've seen, and it gave me this nice glow effect without overpowering the blue that's in the image that I was going for. And then the last thing is Moonlight Glow. I use the exact same yellow color that I used before. And this time, I'll show you where I painted. It's on that big rock on the left. I painted a little bit. It's very, very faint, all right? Over here on the right, and then I painted all throughout these little rocks. And now that I turn on the mask, hopefully that helps you see it a little bit better. Maybe if I go, is it this one? Nope, it's not that button. Wrong button, this button. And we'll go to view mode. No, where is my overlay? Well, mask, view mode, red overlay. There we go. And so that still is not showing very well, because even if I invert it, yeah, that's not gonna, sorry. Let's go back to view mode, grayscale, because that was just atrocious. All right. So there you have it. Pressing O, yeah, when I press O, it just turns on and off the mask. I was trying to show where where I actually painted, so that way you can see the overlay. But I think you guys get the picture that I painted down these areas, and maybe if I turn it off and on, it's a very, very subtle thing. But I promise you it's there. And when I post them to the Flickr group, you guys can take a deeper look at it, pixel peep it, and you'll see that, there's just a little bit of a glow there. And that's all I was trying to go for. It was a creative effect that I thought would work out well. That's all. But thank you for that, Antoni. I appreciate it. Now we're going to go to another image, and this image, instead of me walking through the actual edits, because I take the same approach on pretty much all of these. All right. So what I'm going to do is actually turn this image right here. Let me just create a version of it. We'll take this image right here. Go ahead and hit edit. Yeah, no, I agree with you. You don't need a lot. Sometimes you can overdo edits. Now, I'll show you, very quickly the presets. So if you don't know this already, when you have your preset pane open, in the lower left-hand corner, there is an option to show hide left pane if you don't see your presets. When you click that, you should get your presets up here. Once you select one of the preset folders, we'll call it. Yeah, we'll call it a preset folder. Once you select that, then you'll see a little thumbnail of your preset preview. Now, if you don't really know what you're looking at there and you want to see it a little bit larger, you can hit the little window icon here, and it brings your photos a lot larger, and you can actually scale up and scale down your view. So now you can really take a look and see, like, okay, this is what the preset's doing to my image. Now, as I said before, I'm not going to use a preset on this one because I don't want to, I want to show you how to add in your own color. There's a few different ways. All right. The first way, and this is a way that I think many people can go with. And I know I just clicked something and didn't actually talk about it. So you can create a layer over the top by clicking the little paint bucket to get a solid layer. And then you'll just hit add layer. And I'm going to go with a more light magenta purple looking color. I don't know what color this is, or I guess it says lavender right there. If I just read, and if you're not seeing this and you're on a Mac at least, it's the little color pencil icon. If you're on a Windows machine, I think it's going to be a little bit different. And I'm just going to save that to my swatch if I ever want to use that later. I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to turn my canvas purple. All right, now I don't really care for this. All right, so I'm actually going to lower the opacity of this particular layer just so I can see what's happening underneath. And then I'm going to use my blending options to see if I can kind of massage this into the colors of the image. So I'm going to move this down into multiply, which doesn't seem to be doing much. I could try darken, but that doesn't do much. Color burn makes it purple, but I don't know. It doesn't really do anything. And this is a really fun way of just seeing what works, right? Because if it looks good and, it doesn't mess up your image, then go for it. So I'm just going to quickly go through these and overlay, not so much. Soft light, no. Hard light, vivid, linear, no. So this may not be a good way of adding the color. Well, okay. So you can use color. Now, I'm going to crank this up just a little bit. And yeah, that doesn't look very good. So I could bring the color down to about here. And I'm still on my color fill layer. And I can bring down the exposure maybe. No, bring it up. Nope, that doesn't do anything. So you don't want to do that. Let's see if contrast will work. No. So no matter what, we're going to have to go and adjust the tone of the underlying layer, which is this one. And that's where we go into the effects module. So I've clicked on my underlying layer. I have this purple overlay, which looks good, but it needs to be darker. And I think it needs to be darker because the luminance values are still coming in from the underlying photo, which is this outdoors photo. I'm just going to bring the exposure down. Okay, so by bringing the exposure down, it does help with providing, kind of that purple nighttime look. So I'm just going to kind of move my sliders around to see if I can get an aesthetic that I want. And I want to go with kind of like a purple warm night tone just as the sun set. That's kind of what I'm going for here. So, and then I can bring up the compression. This is just going to open up the shadowed areas around the image, and that kind of is this is kind of working out. Maybe bring that down like to about that point. I think I need another layer on top of the purple. And in fact, what I'm going to try to do is go to add filter, and I am going to go with photo filter. And that actually looks just the way that I was kind of going for it. I like that. So let's see, maybe crank up the amount. There's that nighttime look. All right, so now we're getting there, at least in the foreground. We got to deal with our sky, and we'll try some different concepts with that a little bit later. Let's try polarizing it a little bit, and that actually helps with a lot of the image. And maybe just bring it down a touch, saturate it with some more of the blue filter. And honestly, I think this is a great nighttime photo, or at least the look. It makes the photo look like it was shot more at night, as opposed to this is the previous. Well, I guess I would have to do a stamp layer. Let me do that real quick. Oh, clicked on it too fast. New stamp layer. And then I'm going to turn off this purple one so that way I can show you the difference. So I can go there and click back on here. All right, so this is the before look. And then when I click on this one, this is the after. So before, it's really, really bright. It's, you know, nice and sunlight and I don't know. But then if I want to make it a little bit darker, more moodier, that nighttime aesthetic, there, you know, with just a few filters and a purple overlay layer, you can get to something like this. Now, I'm going to turn on my purple overlay layer and click back here, turn off the preview. No, I want you off. There we go. Because I want to see the effect. Now, I'm going to see what happens when we add in, instead of using the photo filter as our primary way of adding in that contrast, let's go with a split tone. Because this is a really good way of balancing the tones in your highlights and your shadows. And we'll even try another item that I didn't even think about until just now. Let's see here. We'll go with balance and I think I'm going to use the color wheel to find the color that I want in the highlight. And I want to go more of the blue tone, you know. And this is actually a really cool way of color grading your images, which is essentially what I'm doing, is going through a color grade, right? So I think I'm going to go with this purple. I'll go ahead and drop that over there. And I want to increase the amount of the purple. And I mean, that alone is already starting to give the vibe that I was looking for. Now, I'm not sure if I really care for the blue or not, but this blue, it is actually, I don't know. Let's go with a different color blue. Maybe a brighter blue. And this is all trial and error, 100% not scripted, because that's just the way I feel like this is how you would kind of explore on your own when you're editing photos. And let's turn it off. Looks a little orange just because of the purple overlay. And then we turn it back on. I think this could work. This looks like a nighttime photo. It's not as purple as I would like it to be. Maybe just throw some more purple in there. No, I think I need more of a purple blue. So let's go with maybe this color here. And if I saturate it, no, now it's just really starting to, let's see if we can mess with the mode. Lighten, no. No, I'm not digging any of that. I like the color idea. I just don't like the way that it was coming through, especially with that purple. So let's go back to our blue. I think this is a little bit better. Maybe make the blue darker because I want the purple to be the star of the show. But let me know in the comment section. What do you think? Was purple a better look than the blue aesthetic that was there? I think that this works out. Now, I want to try one last idea, and I'm going to turn off this purple one. Wonder how the split tone looks with this. Now, that's a nice little color grade. There's another version of a nighttime photo right there. That's without the purple filter. This, you can easily sell this as a, or you can easily convince someone that you took this at nighttime. Very, very easily. I know I would be able to, or at least I think I would. Let's go ahead and hit, and sorry, I keep going back, but now I want to look at the compression. But but I guess I was already using some compression here. You know, this is a unique way of doing it. The last one was a real nighttime. The last one meaning the purple one, or the last one meaning like this version of the edit prior to me messing with the compression. But let's try one more edit. Let's hit add filter. And this time, I think it's in color balance, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, color balance. So if you have never, okay, yeah, that version. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I would use it, you know, you get away with it the exact same way. So yeah, this is 100% subjective, and there's going to be some people who think otherwise. But I agree with you, Antoni. That is exactly how I would do it. Sorry, I was moving around and I wasn't explaining what I was doing. I'm in the color balance module. I turned off the photo filter, the split tone, and now I'm just I have tone enhancer and the color balance module open. I'm going to move over into the purples because that's where I wanted to kind of get this photo to go. And I'm in the highlight section. If you've never used a color balance feature, this is a really cool way of color grading your images. And I'm bringing in to the highlights some purple, but as you can see, it's really just affecting the sky and not so much of my middle ground. And that's fine because my middle ground is mostly in the midtones and the shadows. So let's start with the shadows. I'm going to bring in purple into the shadows and bring up the amount. There we go. Now we're starting to get that purple in there. We'll bring down the brightness, but it's not mixing the way that I would like it to. Let's see if we can change with a blend mode. You can go dark. Nah, not into that. No, I don't think this method would work. You guys just witnessed me failing, but that's okay. Because this is the way that, you know, we go through as creatives editing photos, and there's no reason for me to hide the fact that not everything I try works. So, yeah, color balance probably won't work the way that I would like it to, because the shadows, it's just not blending the way that I would like it to. Okay. Or maybe it was just that color, because the blues don't look too bad. Yeah, you experiment with it too, right, Antoni? I could dig it. I mean, it's just the way it is sometimes. You know what? Let's see if we can get something similar to what that last look was. Because we're really seeing it happen in this foreground, and we may have to do two different color balances because I feel like I'm going to have to mask in the bottom section here and mask out the top. So I'm applying this only to my shadows, and obviously midtones, that's not going to work. Technically, I shouldn't even need to use that because the blending option of apply to is already selected down here in the highlights, the midtones, and the shadows. So I shouldn't have to use the blending option for the apply to up here, just so everyone understands that, you know, that's kind of how it goes. All right, so let's try some midtones. Oh, that's nice. You know, again, this is how I would color grade a little bit. And I'm really looking at the foreground right now. I'm not worried about this up here because I'm going to go and try something different with that. But this foreground, I don't know if I want green, maybe some more blue. Yeah, I think maybe blue would work. Trying to make the foreground look a little bit darker. And maybe bring down the brightness. Okay, that looks a little bit more nighttime in the foreground at least. There's some weird looking leaves or blades of grass over here, but I'll deal with those later. Maybe even crop the image just to get rid of those. But now, like I said before, I want to deal with the highlights. So, and it looks like all of this up here is being considered highlights. It's like right where the sun hits here, it starts to turn into shadow. So let's go ahead and bring up our color. Maybe make it a little bit more blue. Yeah, that's not going to work. So let's try this. We'll go ahead and go to our mask, get our masking bug. I'm going to click here, rotate this around, or no, it was already the right direction. And I'll just bring this up. I'm not going to go for the most perfect, accurate mask here right now. I just want this to be pretty good. All right, so we'll go with that. And then I'm going to turn on, let me go ahead and copy this mask. Okay, and then I'm going to turn on our photo filter, hit the mask, paste it, invert it. I may need to fix that one. We'll go to split tone. Maybe throw the mask on this one and invert it. I'm trying to get this sky to match, and I don't know. It's just not working. Just not working. No, this is not an easy picture to do it with. I completely agree. This is definitely a challenge, but you know, this is how we learn to master our tools. We get a difficult image or something that gives us a little bit of challenge and forces us to think more creatively as we use the tools, because honestly, we're only limited by our imagination and our willingness to try and expand upon what we already know about a piece of software. But I think we spent enough time on this image. Genuinely, I believe, and I'm just going to reset this mask because we didn't have a mask on here. And I will reset this one just to show the final version of what I think we all can probably agree on is this is probably the most natural looking nighttime photo that I can produce, you know, for this particular image. Truthfully, this photo gave me a really, really tough run for my money. The last, or when I was making or when I was, you know, rehearsing or just trying to make sure that I understood what I was doing. So this one definitely made it a little bit more challenging. Let's go ahead and I'm going to leave this, or better yet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, and at the end of the stream, I will add this back in to the preset pack. So if you want to get this particular preset, you'll have this available. You will have to delete the color balance. Let me just delete that. And then right click here, update preset with current settings, update. All right, so there. That's done. I will make sure that this version of the preset gets added into the preset pack, and then I will upload that back to the Google Drive, so that way you can download it, and you know, if you want to have this, you can have it. All right, let's hit done. Let's go to the comments. Yeah, no, you're right. That was the best I can get on this particular one. Now, I do have a really nice one that I think this worked. The normal effect worked pretty well on. So the reason why this is taking a little bit longer to save is one, I'm not working off of an SSD, and two, it was saving it as a ON1 Photo. What is it called? I forgot what they call them now. But nonetheless, that's why that one was taking so long to save. The ON1 Photo file, or .on photo, because yeah. All right. So here is an image that I think came out really well for the overall effect. This really, it almost looks cinematic, or not almost. It does look cinematic. In my opinion, this looks cinematic, and it worked out just phenomenal. And I think the cinematic piece came from the vignette, because without the vignette, it looks cinematic, but as soon as you throw on the vignette, then it gets that much more dramatic. But, oh wow, sorry. This is the original unedited photo with nothing else, or with nothing on it. And I think it is, I love the tones in this image. I already enjoy a contrasty image. This image has a lot of contrast, but it just looks very dark to begin with, but well exposed, if that all makes sense. Yeah, I really do enjoy this original photo. Now, what I wanted to do, and I'm going to turn the preview back on, is just turn it into a night photo, because it was for the sake of making the effect, right? And I don't think I have any local adjustments on this one. Nope, no local adjustments. And the reason I have no local adjustments on here, because as soon as I threw on the photo filter, I was like, oh, there's my nighttime effect. Done. Right? Have a nice day and catch you on the next one. That's kind of where I was with it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I can absolutely stop here, because this is definitely a nighttime aesthetic. But then I said, okay, this is already a contrasty image. What more contrast can I throw into it? So I went ahead and, yeah, I agree. This one really, really does well. This is why I was excited to show this one. And then I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to throw the tone enhancer on, and I'm going to drop the exposure. And because there was so much contrast, typically at night, you don't have a whole lot of contrast in the overall image. You have like very localized contrast, where you'll have a light and then a building and then the light fall off. That's normal. So I was looking for a way to kind of simulate that, or emulate that. I don't know, whichever the correct terminology is. But you can see I really just cranked these sliders with almost no mercy or regard to what was going on. But I did want to bring the blacks down, and then I brought the contrast down. Now, if I brought the contrast up, I think that it really, really helps. But in order to do that, I would also need to bring up my exposure, and I wasn't enjoying this. I personally did not enjoy that. So I brought the contrast down, and then I was like, okay, now it looks a little bit more flat. And this is again where I said, okay, I've messed around with the compression to open up some of the midtones, the highlights, or the shadows, I should say. And then I said, okay, this is a cinematic photo. I'm going to go ahead and throw a vignette on. And because we all know that the subject in this image is these two people, right? Little kid on a scooter and this older person. Don't know. It seems to be a male, but could be a female. Not 100% sure. But the overall aesthetic, they're framed inside of this city with these nice leading lines going this way. There's leading lines here. So I said, okay, how can I really focus people? This is essentially a busy backdrop, with very simple subjects. And that's what when I said, okay, yeah, throw the vignette on there and we'll bring the center attention here as opposed to on this bus. We'll bring it here. You can know that the bus is there for situational awareness, but we're really capturing these individuals crossing the street. Yeah, it really does have a feeling to it. And I really enjoyed that. It's like, hey, we're coming home, we're going home, and there's just so much of a story. The original photographer looks like it's a Weston MacKinnon. Again, all of these are in the Unsplash collection. So, if you appreciate this, please go let the photographer know. But overall, that was the aesthetic that I was going for. I really enjoyed getting, this. So let's go ahead. And there's nothing more that I did to this. I literally put 2 things on this particular image. And the reason for that is when you have an image with very, very nice, dark, even tones, applying these filters is just so easy and fluid. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done on that one. And then I'll show you one more. These other 2 images here, this one and this one, these ones didn't come out the way, and it's not that I don't want to show you or share in my failure, but they just didn't work out the way that I expected them to. However, this photo right here, I think that this one worked out how I expected it. And you can see that, again, it's similar to the last image where there were nice even tones. There's obviously this point of contrast here where it's really, really bright and then really dark. And then the same thing happens here, really, really bright going into really, really dark. Or not really, really, you could just see the difference, right? It's like a very abrupt fall off. It's not graduated in any way. And I enjoyed the tones in this image. So let's go ahead and jump into the effects and we will take a look. I think I put a vignette on here and then I took it off because I was like, it's a square photo. Like, I don't think you need a vignette on a square photo. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section if you would put a vignette on a square photo. I've never really been a fan of doing that. Because then it looks like, how you have those icons and it's a circle and then like everything just focuses into that circle. I don't know. Personally, not a fan of doing that, but let me know what you think in the comment section. And I know that there's some local adjustments on this one, so I'm going to turn those off as well. And you'll see why I had to throw those in there here in a second. All right. Same concept, when I get an editing style, I'd use the same concept every time. I went with the photo filter, and this was like that twilight hour. And I said, you know what? I want to make this a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more drastic. So I threw the photo filter on, and this came out great. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and throw a curves adjustment layer on there because, like, I use curves all the time. And in fact, I think there's a blend mode on here. Yep, I use the blend mode of multiply because I wanted this to get darker. I wanted this image to get darker. And I don't think I threw any blue in there. Nope. All the blue is coming from the photo filter. And I went ahead and increased some of the shadows, increased the midtones, and put a little safety point for my highlights because I don't want these to get blown out. These are very, very bright areas and they bring a point of focus into the image. So that's why, I didn't want to mess those up too much. But overall, that's what I did. And then I just dropped down my opacity a little bit under halfway. Let's see. And Tony says, always put a vignette on square photos, but you make it yourself. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment on the editing. I really appreciate it. And if you got your link, Antony, because I don't have it readily available, but if you want to share your work, please drop it in the comment section, because you have some phenomenal work. Now, with this particular image, after I went ahead and threw the curves adjustment in there, I said, okay, I'm going to throw my tone enhancer on here. And that just brought back the blue. And this, again, I probably could have stopped right here, and probably should have stopped right here. But I said I wanted to really, really mess with the tones. And so that's where this came in, and I opened up the compression so I could bring a lot of that blue back into the image. But I was losing detail and information and really just the aesthetic over here on the left-hand side of the image. And, the way that this image is shot, the symmetry, or I don't know if it was shot this way. It was definitely cropped this way, unless the photographer shot this in square, is half of this image, literally half of the image, if this is just a straight line, the perspective is this wooden bench texture, whatever it is. And then the other half is really just a makeup of these windows here with some outside information, and then the ceiling, the wall, and the ground. And then you get a really nice look at these the shadows as these pillars or whatever the dividers are between the windows cast onto the ground. Really, really well composed image. I really enjoyed that. But then I said I was losing too much information over here. So I did what everyone would do, hopefully, when you run into losing information in a shadow detail, which is a dodge. Now, it looks extremely subtle. All right, it looks extremely subtle, but it's actually pretty big. And I'm gonna hit O, so you can see, like, I painted this all over this segment of the photo, just because I wanted to make sure that I was bringing back the detail in this bench. Now, that's just me opening up some shadows, and then I brought the opacity down, because when you bring the opacity up, I thought that now it's just way too bright, and this is not how a shadowed area would look at nighttime. But I still want you to be able to see in there, and that's where, I just played around with this until I got to a place, and I think it was like 45. It's at 46 now, but I think you get the gist of what it is that I was trying to do. Now, that was everything, and then again, I played around with the vignette. Then I felt like it was just getting too dark up here. But at the same time, looking at it with a fresh set of eyes, it looks like I was already being pulled into the center. So the vignette kind of works with this particular square image. But again, my personal preference when it comes to square images is no vignette. And if it is a vignette, it is like extremely small. And that's why I brought the size pretty much out to the edges on this one. But if you bring it in, something like that, now this is the tunnel vision thing that I was talking about. Because this is a proportionate, in my personal opinion, because this is a proportionate image, meaning that it's even on all sides. When you do a vignette, it's easy to just make everyone focus on the center of the photo. Square crops are already a little bit of a challenge, and I think the photographer originally did a great job with composing this, which is why I just turned the vignette off and said, you know what, I'm okay with bright edges. But that's again a personal preference. All right. So now I'm gonna go ahead and hit done on that one. Oh, I turned the vignette back on, but whatever. So, like I said, these other two, they didn't work out so well. I think I actually added a moon in one of these, but it is what it is. Oh, you mask with a vignette. So when you say you mask with a vignette, are you talking about using a local adjustment? Let's see here. Let's throw a vignette on. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and open up this one. And then we'll throw a vignette on one of these. So we'll hit local. And this one, I actually did some work on the local, but it just looked too cartoony. The buildings, they were pretty well saturated with color. You put a mask on and then you mask it out. So I guess my question is, do you do it like this? So let me just turn off. I'm going to turn off all of the effects because there's already a vignette on there. So do you go into like local adjustment and then hit vignette, click there, and then just kind of mess around with it like this? Because I mean, this is my preferred method when I do add a vignette like that. So, oh, okay, I get what you're saying. So not like this. Instead, you do something where you go effect, you throw on the vignette, and then you hit the mask. And am I on paint out? Yes, I am. And then just masking it away, something like this. So masking it away and then hit O, and I guess now the vignette is gone. Is that what you, okay. Got it. Yeah. And this absolutely works. I mean, there's so many ways that you can add vignettes. And that's the thing I love about digital photography. What I really, really appreciate about it is the ability to, just kind of do what you want and enjoy it. So hopefully, that was helpful for anyone. I'll pause here for any questions when it comes to nighttime editing of photos, because I know that sometimes editing photos at night can be a little bit of a challenge. Creating a aesthetic can be a little bit of a challenge, but hopefully I explained it well enough that anyone can pick up and go. One of the main things that you want to look for in a photo that you can edit, into nighttime, is something that has a lot of even tones. And if it doesn't have a lot of even tones, then, you're going to have to manage those yourself. Similar to how I did with that waterfall photo, where I was looking at it and saying, okay, I can see that the original photographer really did some dodge and burn work coming down this water scheme or whatnot. So, okay. So, Antonio, you work with LUTs. Yeah. So I tried to use a LUT, and I could not find a LUT that I was, kind of satisfied with. There's some really good LUTs in ON1, and I love the LUT filter. I'll have to do a video of that, because you can do, some really good atmospherical things with a LUT. And color grade type stuff, right? In fact, I make LUTs inside of Affinity Photo, and then I save those as cube files so I can import them into ON1 Photo Raw. I'm thinking about building a LUT pack. So, again, that'll be on the preset, the Google Drive. So if you haven't already, make sure you save that link to, a favorites folder or something like that. And I'm not going to be updating that folder every single week, but I can probably see me adding some information in there every month, maybe multiple times throughout the month, but definitely once a month, getting some new presets in there, or LUTs or textures or whatever, just things that I can share with you guys. And you can get them for free. Try it, work with them. And then obviously editing photos and posting them into the Flickr group. So again, the Flickr group, all that information is in the description box below. So please check that out. And, if you're dealing with anything like, ON1 Photo Raw or just photo editing in general, you don't even have to be using ON1 Photo Raw. You could be using a whole different photo editing software. Most of the techniques that I teach, assuming that something similar to the filters that I'm using exist in the program that you're working on, and that there's masking capabilities, I think you're going to be able to get away and do a lot of the stuff that I do. With that being said, there will be some things that are specific to ON1 and the way that ON1 works, and just the algorithms that it uses to do those edits. So just keep that in mind. There was something. Oh, yeah. The Flickr group is limited to 4 photos per week. All right. I did that very intentionally because what I don't want to do is, as the group continues to grow or starts to grow, that it's oversaturated to the point that we can't really just appreciate the work that we're posting. So one, I think that this helps with a lot of like internal culling. What image do I want to share with the group? You get 4 choices for that entire week. So maybe you post one on Monday, post one on Wednesday, and then you post 2 over the weekend, or however you choose to work that out. But you only get 4 photos per week. And if they're posted by 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, US time, on Fridays, then I will feature them on the live stream that Sunday, or I'm sorry, that Saturday. And if I don't have a live stream for that Saturday, then I will feature them in the next video, and definitely in the next live stream. So if you got photos, we can absolutely get them featured, because the vision here on Free Will Photos is to help you learn photo editing software to get your creative vision out into the world, and sharing it with people. So that's my goal. Sharing it, even if it's just among the community here on Free Will Photos. I really just want to help promote and produce artwork. So I think that was pretty much everything for today's episode, or live stream, which it went about 18 minutes longer than I expected. I actually have a photo shoot set up with my wife. We're going to do some food photography. So maybe there's going to be some videos about that on the channel in the coming weeks. So stay tuned. I plan to record the behind the scenes of us photographing that and do a voiceover talking about some of the decisions that we made, and, as we kind of maybe even struggle. I don't know. We'll see. Well, hopefully, again, absolutely, Andrea, you are very, very welcome. Hopefully, this week, there's an HDR video coming out on Tuesday. If you are interested in the HDR filter, you don't have to know how to photograph bracketed images. That'll come out in a later video. This one is really just using the filter, one photo. And this is a photo from Andrea. She offered that photo up to us, sent the photo to me. I edited it using the HDR filter. That's going to be coming out on Tuesday. It launches at midnight Eastern Standard Time. So anytime on Tuesday. Hopefully you guys will be able to get that. If you want to send me an email, you can always email me. But if you join the Flickr group, you can start a discussion, and you can also send messages via Flickr. I don't use too much social media, even though I know that I have a Instagram and Twitter. If you go to either one of those, it's almost like cobwebs are growing there. So it is what it is. I want to get a little bit more engaged with social media, but every time I get on one of these social media sites, be it Flickr, Instagram, Facebook, or I'm sorry, not Flickr, Instagram, Facebook, there's a lot of drama, and I don't deal with drama personally, not my thing. So hopefully if you guys are looking to connect, we can link up in the group on Flickr, where we can stay very centric to photography. That's the focus. Just staying centric to photography and things that are related to photography. So again, all those things are in the description box. I feel like I'm just like continuously plugging that. I apologize. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the stream here. If you have questions, you can email me. And until the next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Yeah, you are absolutely right, Anthony. Flickr is a good way. I'm looking forward to it. So if you are watching the replay of this, please go to the Flickr account, sign up, 100% free. Lots of rules. Not lots of rules. I think there's like 8 rules, but they should be like very easy to understand, and I don't think anyone's going to have any problems with those rules. So till next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.